Communal conflict between the Atyap people and Fulani herdsmen in Kaduna State has escalated into accusations and counter-accusations between the Yahaya Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria and Southern Kaduna People's Union, who are accusing the locals of killing defenseless Fulani herdsmen. Here to speak on this conflict and the growing rate of insecurity in the state is Sir Dominic Gambir Yahaya, the Paramount ruler of Atyap Chiefdom. Welcome to the morning show, Chief.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. We can hear you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's take...
You're hearing me. Right.
Thank you. Yes, we can hear you clearly. Hope you can hear us too. Okay.
I'm hearing you.
All right.
I'm with you.
Okay. So, Sir Yahaya, I mean, your community has been experiencing a lot of issues, a lot of conflict, for a long time. And it looks like once Kaduna is mentioned, the Atyap people, the Zango Katav local government, are mentioned. And it looks like lives are being lost on a daily basis. People's property are being destroyed. Only last Saturday, there was a press conference by one of the key associations in your community asking the Kaduna state government to come to the rescue, to come to the aid of your people. And I also understand that even your own house, was not spared in one of the raids that were carried out allegedly by bandits and by Fulani herdsmen. What is actually going on there? How bad is it? And what would you like the Kaduna state government to do for you?
Yes, so much has taken place and a lot is going on. Well, one thing leads to the other. In a community where you have diverse heterogeneous groups or minority, you can experience problems. But we have tried to address these problems from 2020 to date. We realized there are problems, and the problems arose, the insecurity arose. And we tried our best by calling all parties to sit together to find out what is wrong. Because it does not appear that the attacks are coming from bandits. The attacks on the Atyap community are coming from people who are Fulani that have lived, because some of them have lived there for over 100 years. I've lived in my community for over 100 years. When they are a minute group, when there are issues, they run out. When they run out, they come back to carry out attacks. So we call them to sit, to dialogue, and to understand the problems that are arising, their complaints. So we sat last year and we discussed these issues, and then we decided to say, okay, let's establish a permanent committee, permanent peace and security committee in the chiefdom that would dialogue with everybody. And everybody, that is to say the Atyap, the Hausa, the Fulani, these are the groups that are involved, was invited to that meeting. And that committee comprises of about 90 people. A committee of 90 is a very large one. So we said, look at the issues. What are the issues? Then the Fulani tabulated their own issues. They want to come back and be reintegrated into the community since they have lived there, that they do not know anywhere else. Then we listened to the Hausa, and the committee decided to form subcommittees to dialogue and practically see to that the complaints from each group are holistically tackled. And that's what we have been doing. But this current eruption of violence, it is mind-boggling. We are really confused why this had to happen. Because we thought we had reached a fair understanding with everybody, and that the complaints of everybody had been taken on board. And virtually people are getting reintegrated and the communal relationships are being re-established. But this current uprising, it is most unfortunate. But we are going to look at it. I have said we are going to examine precisely what are the further complaints that have led to this, though we know that one small thing leads to the other, because relationships have been strained and people are no longer at ease with one another. So we are going to look at this. Thank you.
Understood. Sir Dominic, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I can imagine it's been a very difficult time for the chiefdom, for yourself and your people there. You know, earlier this week in your Eid address, you did say that you'd need more help from the government. I think you'd asked the government to help people who had lost their homes had been burned down. I mean, I want to ask you, is that all you want from the government in terms of like some form of financial change, or if people have lost their homes, you're asking the government to help them rebuild them? But in terms of like a longer lasting solution, how much more do you want? I'd imagine that with a situation like this that only seems to be worsening, you assume some sort of responsibility for making sure that the people of the Atyap Chiefdom are safe. Do you accept what has happened now as a personal failure, or do you think this is something that has gone beyond your arms? I understand that when we talk about security and security agencies, they are all on the federal level. But of course, you are in Kaduna State, you have your own governor. Do you think also that he is to blame? Has he failed to keep your people safe? Do you think that you have failed in keeping your people safe?
Well, it is not that it's your failure, as it were. You are dealing with people on a daily basis, and things happen that you can take cognizance of. Other things will happen that you may not even be aware that they are happening, and then you have some form of crisis erupting. We have appealed to the government to provide succor, to provide material support. But more than that, we have held a meeting with the governor yesterday being 23rd of July, and the government had indicated that it is working out a blueprint that would ensure that peace returns to the area. But that meeting also had in attendance the Fulani, the Hausa, the Atyap. And the governor did not mince words in telling people that they should live in peace. They should go back and cultivate the peace. So, our committee, the Peace and Partnership Committee, is holding a meeting today as I'm talking to you now. And with all the parties involved, and they are still looking at ways and means to improve the relationships. Of course, what we expect is a cessation of hostilities. This past 2-3 days, we've not had any attack, and we pray it should continue like that. So the government would do its own, and we are doing our own. It is not a failure. It is trying to understand where people are coming from and how to address their own grievances. Of course, people have grievances.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Whether the grievances are genuine or not, we look at them and address them individually and agree on the way forward.
Thank you very much. That's actually the good thing to do. And it's nice that, the state government, has waded in, and a committee has been formed, etc. But then I want you to also shed light on your own convictions as to why the hostilities, the last hostilities, happened. Because I know that there has been accusations and counter-accusations. The Meeti Allah people, basically, putting the blame at the doorstep of the youths, the Atyap youths that you have some control over. While your own people have also said that this is not just about banditry. It looks like your land might be the target, and that they might actually be thinking of wiping out, your people. When you have positions, very strong positions like this, it might make peaceful resolutions a bit difficult. So I'm asking, if you go back into what is actually causing all this, are you putting all these things forward with the committee, at the committee level with the state government, so that you wouldn't have to repeat what led to the last hostilities, now that it looks like we're enjoying at least some respite in the last 3 days?
Yes. The issues, as I said, are being looked at holistically. I do not think anybody would want to come and grab our land. People may want to make the communities most uncomfortable, but there will be no such capacity for them to come and grab any lands. Of course, there have been small land issues within the vicinity of Zango Urban. And those small land issues, they are small parcels of land. We are looking at the issues as they are, because you would understand that there was a conflict in 1992, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
The conflict in 1992 revolved around a market. But essentially also, there were land issues that were involved. So, these are not large territories of land. These are maybe a few hectares of land that people are wanting people are laying claims to and counterclaims to such lands. So as I said, we also have a committee on such land matters within the vicinity of Zango Urban area. We shall add a map to show you the area we're talking about. And that committee is working. And hopefully such issues will be resolved very soon. But essentially, we're not looking at a holistic land acquisition or land grabbing approach by these groups. Yes, they can continue, they may want to make communities vacate their places, but they will not reoccupy them themselves.
Understood.
I mean, the Fulani herdsmen, they will not have the capacity to reoccupy such lands themselves. The Mechi Atla, they have not come to me, though when we held the meeting, sometime last year, they were part of it, the discussions. But I have not had their own claims. I have not had their own accusations about our youth. I have not had their accusations. But as for youths, we try to rein in our youths. We try the best we can to rein in on them so that they toe the line of peace. Youth will not rise. They are very patient unless they are provoked beyond measure. And this we have seen happen. But we try to rein in on the youth so that they do not rise to create problems for us.
Understood. So Dominic, we're going to put you on a little bit of a pause. It is time for us to take a short break, but please do not go anywhere. We will continue on this conversation when we return from this short break. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still joined by Sir Dominic Gambir Yahaya, who is the Paramount ruler of Atyap Chiefdom. Please do, welcome again to the morning show, and thank you for staying with us. Before we went on break there, you said that you weren't aware of any type of accusations from the Fulani people in the region as it pertains to their grievances, and I think we should start this conversation with putting across to you some of their accusations. So both the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria and the Southern Kaduna's People's Union have accused locals in Atyap Chiefdom of killing defenseless Fulani herdsmen. What do you have to say to that, especially since while you said in one of your earlier answers that you can acknowledge that land plays a role, that it's not a huge role, clearly ethnicity must be a huge role. And there are accusations from people in the Atyap Chiefdom that accuse Fulanis or accuse the bandits of what they're calling as a genocide. Do you also agree with that terminology? What do you have to say about that, especially when it comes to talking about all of these different issues that have led to how we come here? Ethnicity surely must play a role in that. What do you have to say?
Yes, as I indicated, I have not had any interaction with Fulani Magban, that is the umbrella group of Fulani, on these issues. I have not had a discussion with them. We have not interacted. So, the accusation that is coming from them on the media, it is difficult to place. It is difficult for me to also say I'm finding justification from the accusations, justification for the killing and the mass destruction that is taking place in the chiefdom by them, because they have lived with the locals. Now, look at a situation whereby a Fulani that was within the neighborhood will come back and say that you should come out of your house, and his voice is known, come out and be killed. That yours is finished today. So they had situations whereby people who know one another will resort to killing themselves. And such situations are very repugnant. I cannot find a justification for the killings because, one, the violence that ensued in the chiefdom was triggered by certain forces, certain things that happened. And Fulani were, of course, the Fulani huts were ransacked. That is bad, as it were. But the amount of mayhem that has been visited is beyond proportion. You cannot say because this happened, therefore this is happening and it's being justified. Because if you look at it on a proportional level, no one can accept what has happened. We call all groups to understand, to meet and understand themselves so that we can put a halt to this. But I know the Fulani would want to come back. The relationships have to be built over time. They have to be rebuilt over time because they have been strained. They have been wounded. The communal relationships have been wounded, so badly wounded, that it will need some time to heal the wounds that have been created by the current happenings. Thank you.
All right, Yahaya.
Anything else?
Yes, just one more question, if that's okay, if you don't mind, sir. And I'd like to stress the aspect of living together in peace, which you alluded to. And in doing that, I'd like to draw to make a reference to the story that I'm sure that you know quite All right. The story of the gentleman that has been tried in Cotonou in Benin Republic, Sunday Igboho, you know that part of what led to all this in an area in Oyo State, in Igangan, you know, had to do with Fulani people who have been living there for a long time, but all of a sudden there were allegations, you know, that there were issues with the Yoruba landlords, if you like, that they've been coexisting peacefully with. All of a sudden, it looks like they are now turning their swords on the people who own the land, and then the gentleman Sunday Igboho had to step in. Things deteriorated to giving quit notice to the Fulani, and then all of a sudden it snowballed into the agitation for a different nation. Knowing that that story is pretty similar to what you have painted between the Atyap people of your community, you know, and the Fulani who are living, you know, with you, but you saying that you've not heard of their complaints and that you have not had any cause to sit down with these people. I'm wondering if you do not think, sir, that this ought to be the direction to take. Yes, government can do what it hopes to do. Yes, government can choose to compensate you, but then this is about the Atyap, you know, chiefdom, sitting down with those who are complaining, and from what Femi has said, you know, they are quite clear about what they are saying. So yes, I know that nerves are very, you know, frayed right now. People are angry. You know, it will take time to rebuild. But then what is important, which seems to be lacking in this instance, is that the two people are not talking as they ought to. Do you think that that's the direction that you should take, in addition to all the other considerations that you have considered with the governor?
As I said, we've been talking with the Fulani, the local Fulani within our community. When this thing started a fortnight ago, yes, nobody has had the opportunity to call them to meet. But we have been planning that when tempers simmer down and the situation gets calm, we will call them to meet. Why not? What I was saying is that McBain as a group, we have not met with them. This is what I'm saying. We've not met with them of recent. We met with them last year, but of recent we've not met with them. Of course, there could be members of McBain in the committee that we set up to broker peace. We have a permanent peace and security committee that involves everybody. The Metiala are part of it, not as a group, but as individuals. The Hausa are part of it. We picked individuals. That's why we're able to form a committee of 90 people that sit to dialogue. Well, the scenario as it concerns Sunday Ademo is perhaps a different one, because it is the paramount ruler of the place, of that community, that should intervene on behalf of the community if there were such uprisings, issues, attacks, and counterattacks. I think it is the paramount ruler that should have intervened, not an individual. Because if an individual gets involved at that level, he becomes something else. He is presenting himself as a warlord. And we should avoid that at the moment. Our situation is slightly different. We believe we shall get over it with more interactions over time. Because, as I said, time is needed for a natural healing process to take place. And that's what we hope will happen. We will continue to talk with the people so that eventually, as tempers simmer down, as people understand themselves, as the Atyap and the Fulani get to understand themselves over time, perhaps the reunification could ensue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peace and unity
Definitely
are going to be the themes for repairing the breakdown
Yes.
over in Kaduna. So Dominic, Gambir, Yahaya, thank you very much. The Paramount ruler of Atyap Chiefdom, thank you for joining us on the morning show. It's been a great discussion.